Hi, this is Alex S. Johnson, and I'm here with Hazel Lynch, who is the creator of Senor Fluffy. And Senor Fluffy is a it's best described as a high-falutin cat, a cat with some kind of sense of himself as being, a kind of a bougie cat, right? Um, this character has taken the world by storm. There are Hazel Lynch has fans around the world that whom she corresponds with, and she also does. She is a pen pal in the old school sense of literally writing to people's snail mail addresses. And she's here with Senor Fluffy himself to talk about um, her books, um, her characters in the developing saga of Senor Fluffy, and I was very intrigued. I think that we became Facebook friends, and I sort of I looked up your um, you you had a at that day, I think that you posted that you just had an interview with a local TV station, right?
Yes,
And then I
yes.
checked out that interview, and I was I fell in love with Senior Fluffy, and I think that my viewers will once they encounter Senior Fluffy, they too will, I mean, look at him, right? Look at him. He's I think Senior Fluffy is the new Paddington Bear, and I really do. And I was just delighted to encounter Senior Fluffy. I was also very curious about the origin story of Senior Fluffy because it seems that Senior Fluffy kind of came to you and started telling his story. Now, how did that happen?
Well, I was in Brooklyn, New York at
Hmm.
a function. I
Right,
had just gotten a anthology published in a
right.
book called From Page to Page, my
Hmm.
first published piece. And I was talking to this fellow writer. His name is Bryce. I can't remember his second name.
Right.
And when I
Pri
flipped through the
Price
book,
or Bryce? Price or Bryce?
Bryce
Bryce.
something.
Okay.
Yes, Bryce, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And when I flipped through the book, I saw that his pen name was Senor Fluffy.
Oh my
And
gosh.
something about, yeah, and something about those two was, I got so excited, like it was like me being a child again. And I don't know what, it was a
Uh-huh.
weird feeling actually.
Right.
And I got so excited and I said, Bryce, wait, tell me how you got this pen name. And I didn't know he had work published before. And he started to tell me about his how he got the name. Know what
Hmm.
he told me.
Right.
All I heard in my voice, in my head, sorry, was write a story about a highfalutin French cat, not a poodle. And the
Not a
name
poodle.
just come to me. Not a poodle. It was very specific. Not a poodle, not a French poodle. I would have gone with a poodle, but it said not a poodle. And it was like somebody was relating me the story
Has this ever happened to you before?
because
Where
I
the,
was seeing the reason. Yeah.
oh,
And
I'm sorry.
mm,
I'm sorry. The Wi-Fi is going
go
in and
ahead.
out. But I was going to ask you,
Yes.
has that ever happened to you before that you had a character start telling you about themselves, or you had a voice telling you about a character? Is that something that happens to you a lot, or
No, well, since Senior Fluffy is basically, it's my first book,
okay,
Senior Fluffy, a cat steal. So to me, that never happened to me before. It was like he took control and he was actually telling me his story.
okay,
And I just asked if I told Bryce, I said, Bryce, I am taking your pen name and I'm going to add it and write a book. And I told him
Right.
about it. And I was so excited. It was kind of like a out of body experience for me. I don't,
Hmm.
that is how I was really feeling.
Right.
And then I asked if anybody had paper, and I said between all these authors here, no one had paper.
Right.
So I asked for napkins and I got a lot and I just started writing. That was in 2018, I think. Was it 18 or something like that? I
Right.
think it was, yes. Yes,
So, so
2018.
you were in Brooklyn, New York, which is
Mm-hmm.
where Senor Fluffy finds himself, not to his great pleasure, right? Tell me why you were in Brooklyn at the time.
Say that again.
Okay, could you tell me why you were in Brooklyn at the time?
Oh, I was living there,
Uh-huh.
yeah, at the time, yes. And I discovered it had a lot. I had always loved writing.
Hmm.
And I was there a while, and then I didn't know anything about, didn't discover no classes and stuff. And then one day I just heard somebody talking about these writing classes. Now,
Hmm.
they're not teaching you to write, they just give you prompts which you read aloud to the class and
Right.
they'll critique it, but they can't say anything negative, you
Okay,
know?
that's good.
So
Yeah.
it was a great experience for me going to those classes all over Brooklyn and Manhattan. Anywhere I could have gotten it, I went.
How did you find
Yeah.
out about these classes? How did you discover the classes?
Just, um, I went to so many. I think it was just word of mouth from people.
Okay.
No, I think some of them really started by librarians telling me because they knew I love writing, any form of
Okay.
writing. So I think it really started with the librarians. Yes, the librarians started me on that journey, and then other people will tell me about classes in Manhattan and different places.
Okay.
So yes, that is how
So
it really
so
started.
okay. So you were talking to librarians in Brooklyn, right?
Yes, and I
And
still talk to them.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What kind of conversations would you have with the librarians? What were you asking about?
Well, they know I love writing, so like
Right.
basically anything that happened in the library, they will come and tell me.
Okay.
If a new book came in,
Oh,
writing
that,
is just my passion and reading. So, they will say, Hazel, like it had this writing class. You should
mhm,
really join, or would you like to join? Because they always used to try to get me to one time I remember in Flatbush Library,
mhm,
they wanted me to do a pen pal club. But I was kind of shy and I refused flat out. And I was like,
mhm.
what I could teach people about, I was like, me? No. I should
Right.
have really done it, but I was basically very shy.
Well, you wound up being a pen pal of many people.
Yes.
How did that get started?
Well, basically, my older sister, she used to write a lot. And she said, well, I was years young. She used to tell me I was intrigued about when the postman came and I saw she get so much letters. And I used to
Right.
always be like, what is in those letters? And sometimes she used to read certain parts, what she could have for me because I was really young.
Right. Right.
And I
Right.
was just intrigued, I think, that the mailman came like every day and she used to get nice stationery. She
Right.
got stuff, postcards, and I just started to look at the places and she used to tell me about it. So I didn't even look, I just knew the time the postman came or post lady came every
Hmm.
day. So I was the first by the gate to receive it. And I think after that it just developed and as I got older, it had it in the papers
Uh-huh.
like a pen pal corner, and then I just started to write people. It didn't matter the age to me. I was 12 and writing to people
Right.
way older because
Right.
I
Right.
just
Right.
saw friendship as friendship. It have no age limit, no color, no religion. It's just knowing people from different backgrounds and stuff. And then I remember years after it had big Blue Marble, which I love. Big Blue Marble, that was a TV show. I don't know if you ever, but it finished. It
Uh-huh.
stopped years ago. I got a lot of pen pals from that. It used to really teach you about pen paling
Oh, wow.
and children
Okay.
meeting their pen pals and stuff. Then it
Yeah.
had IYS, International Youth Service, when I was going to school. And that
Hmm.
was a great one too. It had so many things. And then,
Yeah.
of course, your pen pals giving you their friends to write to and so forth, and these
Yeah.
little thing called friendship books. So my name used to go all over the world, and then people will just see my name in a paper, in a little booklet, and they will write to me asking me if I would love to write to them. So I never refused. The only people I used to refuse is if you write to me and I cannot understand your writing,
Right.
and I will send back a note to you and see if you can probably space out your letters more, your words,
Sure.
and not too fine and not, because sometimes it really hurts your eyes the way some people write. And I used to
Right.
really try, and I used to give my friends, big people, just friends and people I know, can you understand what this person write? And sometimes I used to say no. So if they can't understand,
Right.
then certainly I wouldn't. And I used to give them the chance to write a next letter or
Right.
whatever. But if I got a second letter and I couldn't understand, I tell them, well, I don't want these letters, these words to damage my eyes, so I will
Sure.
stop writing them.
Now, were any of those letters that you sent out or that you got, um, were you writing any stories?
Was I writing stories?
Yeah, were you writing stories to these people?
I can't remember like when I was 12 and younger when I started to write, but I think sometimes I used to write. I don't think it happened a lot, if I
Uh-huh.
could remember. But I think sometimes I used to try to write my story like a fairy tale, like
Okay.
introducing me that kind of way.
Yeah. Fascinating.
And I recently thought that, you know what, I can do, like write it in the form of a story, like introducing myself, and
Right.
maybe I live in a dungeon or just thing that
Interesting.
I love to write. Why not write it in the letters and see how that come about,
So
you
you
know?
you you became a character in your own stories, in
Yes,
these own fairy tales,
yes.
essentially. That's very,
Hmm.
very interesting. Right. So
Yeah,
so
I think so.
when did you okay, so back to the origin of Senor Fluffy. Now how did you come to actually write the book and it was is published? And what was the whole process of writing it like?
Well, that is kind of a blur because I came back home in 2018, the 18th of
Mhm.
December, and not too long after COVID hit. So I
Right,
was just home, and those times they were telling you that you couldn't even go outside and walk. You just have to stay in your house or your yard.
right,
So it was pretty boring for me, and I don't ever get bored because I read a lot too. I always find something to do. So I'm not a person who really gets bored. It might
right.
have once in a year.
Uh-huh.
And then one day I was in my bedroom lying down on my bed, and I swear I just heard a voice said, "Oh, so you just come from America just to be lying down in your bed day after day doing nothing?" And I just jump up and I got a book, a journal, and started to continue Senor Fluffy.
Okay, so
And that's how it was.
right. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
So you actually started out, when you got the voice telling you about Senior Fluffy, you actually started to write it down on napkins,
Mhm.
right? And then so
Yes.
you had some napkins, and that was the kind of the seed for you went home to you. Okay, so
Yes.
and I always mispronounce it. There's Trinidad and Tobago, is that correct?
Yes. Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, so that's where you live. And so
Yes.
and
No.
you were home. And how long after you were in Brooklyn did you start to write Senior Fluffy?
Well, when I was in Brooklyn, right, and I started to go to all these different class, not classes, these different
Hmm.
writing, what do you call them, a class, whatever, writing class.
Workshops or
I started to
yeah,
like workshops. That's what
right,
I was trying to remember.
right,
Writing
right, right.
workshops, yes. Every time I go to a workshop, depending on the prompt or what I feel to write, I will write a lot about Senor Fluffy. Whatever the prompt was, I will
Right.
write about Senor Fluffy. Not all the time, mind you, because I
Right.
have a lot of other characters.
Of course.
And I never used to read. Like for like months, I didn't read because when people wrote, I find their stories to hear some like the teacher give you a prompt for 5, 10, 15, or 20 minutes. And the stories that came from these people, I was like, why would I read my story about a cat? So I was kind of like intimidated when I was in the class after
Sure.
hearing people read. And it had some disturbance in a class at Grand Army Library
Mhm.
one day between these two writers. And everybody would encourage me, Hazel, read, Hazel, read. And I said, look, the class is disrupted. I cannot read. They wouldn't calm down, you know.
Mhm.
Two people were quarreling actually. And I didn't want to read. And then they encouraged me to read. And when I started to read, everybody just started to laugh. So I stopped reading. So I said, what's so funny? They say your story. And I just continue reading, and people were falling out of their chairs. And I was like, what's wrong with these people? And they say, how come you never read? They say, that story was so fantastic. You know, and after that, when I started to go to the other workshops, all the teachers started calling on me first to read. You know,
Hmm.
so no matter what workshop I went to, I was always the first. I didn't have to volunteer when to read. They made me read first all the time. It was like, oh my gosh, why? So it just started from that. But I have other characters because
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
also working on a fairy tale. So like Old Mother Hubbard, Jack and the Beanstalk, and these people, which I think will make a good storyline. I also used to write stories about them too. And
I
people
want to
that came,
talk about that. I want to talk about that
yes,
first, but first I want to talk about, we haven't talked about who Senior Fluffy is
yes,
and how we came to be in Brooklyn.
yes. Well, it's really from hearing that guy talk up just the name.
Right,
And then his voice told me to write about this cat. And then I just started to write about him. And over time, it just developed like, to me, like the cat was real.
right,
Because sometimes people will stop me in the street because I used to read all over New York. I started to go all places, all in Manhattan and read.
right, 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 right.
And I think I was calling me the fairy tale, something. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, I'm not a fairy tale writer, the fairy tale writer. I
Yeah.
just like to write about weird stuff sometimes.
But
And sometimes people,
I'm sorry. No,
yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry. But in a way, the origin story of Senor Fluffy is kind of a fairy tale. I mean,
Yes,
I can see this as a Disney movie, right?
yes,
I can seriously see this as a Disney film, right? Like how you came up with the origin story of Senor Fluffy and suddenly become this sort of magical character who's writing about this cat with this bougie cat with an attitude. You know, he's not accepting
yes.
his current circumstances. Like so tell me
No.
more about this cat who has an attitude. Where is the cat
So,
from?
he's from France.
Okay,
He's a custom. Madame Dubois is human. She adopted him when he was a baby. Well,
right.
something happened in his life and he was left homeless. And the
Oh
dog
dear.
catcher, the cat catcher, found him and he caught him actually. And this lady came in the place one day and she said, I want that ball of fluff.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that is how their story started. But she's rich, so he lived a life of a privileged lifestyle.
Hmm.
So he used to eat the best of the best, drink the
The best
best
of the
of the best.
best.
When he traveled, he never used to walk because they have so many butlers. servants and everything. So, but in the story, in my stories, the people and the animals get along. It's like,
Hmm.
they live together just like
Right.
how, yes, so they talk, some of them walk on their hind legs. If they
Uh-huh.
want to walk on their all four, they shop, they go to work, just like regular people, but they're animals. So he's accustomed to this lifestyle, and she's very rich, but people take advantage of her. She's very gullible.
I
So
see.
people, even if the paperclip is invented, somebody will come to her door and say, like, give me $4 million. I want to invent the paperclip. And she'll just give it without signing anything. And he
Right.
find that was totally absurd. And he used to try to talk to her, but she wouldn't listen. And
Right.
then one day, he don't know the reason. She just said they're going to go into New York.
Right.
So when he thought he would have bus, and then we crossing the road like regular people. And she didn't even buy the building or the apartment. She's renting like common people. That is what he said. And then he realized, lo and behold, they're in Brooklyn, which he considers the ghetto.
Oh my
That
gosh.
is that was his opinion. He went to New York City once before, but he stayed in Manhattan,
Oh,
which
of
he
course.
considered
Yes.
home. Yes.
Right.
So when he come to Brooklyn, it's like a wake-up call.
Right.
They have to travel in elevators with regular people, rub shoulders with common people,
Oh my gosh.
but he don't consider himself common. So he's like, well, what is this? And when he go upstairs, he realizes it's a studio apartment.
Mhm.
And where is she going to sleep? Not him,
Oh,
she, because it only have one bedroom, and obviously he's going to get it. Then she said,
right. Of
no, you're going
course.
to sleep on the mat.
Oh
He's
my
like,
gosh.
the audacity of this woman to let me sleep on the mat. I'm too high class for that. And so
Seriously
his
though.
life just different from the
Right.
one he envisioned. And then he
Right.
meets some
And
other, yeah.
so he meets, there's some other characters that I want to hear. There's a subway rat who's not,
Yes.
and it's not Subway restaurant, right?
No.
It's
Yeah,
it's
Subway.
literally the subway.
Yes, literally Subway.
Right.
And nobody is there. So she's a rat. She's very neat. She
Right.
teaches the rodent population at the library. She helps with homework, and she loves books, and she loves to read.
I love that so much.
Then he'll meet a Jamaican alley cat called Marley. Don't call him Bob Marley because he cannot sing. So
Oh,
Senor
okay.
Fluffy thinks he's just because he was found in an alley,
Right.
he's way better. No, the alley cat will teach him a thing or two. But he loves Senor Fluffy, and then he'll meet a Trinidadian
Hmm.
parrot called Esmeralda who could cook mean street food, meaning nice food you'll get in Trinidad's. Yeah, doubles, pilau, the works.
Oh my
You
gosh.
know, and then it have a naughty Chihuahua,
Hmm.
Gary Greyhound, Napoleon, that is the Chihuahua, a Shih Tzu, Shelly Shih Tzu, and Gary Greyhound, but they are very naughty.
So you have three dogs.
Hmm.
Why three dogs and only one cat?
Well, no, two cats,
Oh,
Marley
two,
and
you have two
Singapore,
cats. Bob
and a
Marley. Yeah, I
parrot.
mean not Bob Marley,
Well,
not Marley.
you
Bob Marley, right?
Marley, yeah, not Bob Marley. Well, when you start to write and you end up like the book, I didn't, they were not supposed to be characters. The Chihuahua and the two other dogs, the Chihuahua, the Shih Tzu, and the Greyhound, they just came in and the story have a twist in it. So it's not the original story like I had in my mind. Senior Fluffy was just supposed to be a nice feel-good story. It is a nice feel-good story, but it have a twist in it. They find out like Madame Dubois is a FBI
No,
agent
no,
and
no
all
spoilers,
kind
no
of drama.
spoilers, no
No,
spoilers, no
no
spoilers.
spoilers,
Okay,
you know. So it's
people need to buy this book.
yes,
So
yes.
so
It's
so we only have about 10 minutes, actually less
yes.
than 10 minutes. So I want to have you as a guest again. Um, but we'll continue this conversation. This will be part one. And so could you please tell my viewers how they can get a hold of first of all, of Senor Fluffy and
Mhm.
tell them about your merchandise because you've got some merchandise, right?
Yes, I actually have. Well, this you can get my books on any platform on Amazon. On
Let's
Amazon,
and
and
who did the cover art? Because that's
oh,
really
it's
great cover.
Candy McGregor. She's a graphic artist in Canada,
Wonderful.
Canadian
That's
graphic
wonderful
artist.
art.
She did. Yes, but the idea for the book was mine. All the pictures, everything is my idea,
Of
you
course.
know. But she's very good. And if you happen to be in the New York area or in Morrisville, North Carolina, or in Queens Library. My book is
Okay.
also in a couple libraries in Manhattan, Brooklyn, one in Morrisville in North Carolina, and Queens. That's where I could get them. So sometimes I do coasters, placemat. I have puzzles, my earring, Senor Fluffy earring. This is my latest thing, bookmarks, anything I feel to. So this is my earring. This is my latest thing
That
I
is
came up with to
that's
do earring.
beautiful. So how can
Yes.
people purchase these items and the and your Senior Fluffy um
Well,
plushie?
they could send me a message,
Okay.
contact me on Facebook,
Okay.
on Instagram. I could give you my WhatsApp number and I could just mail it for them,
Okay.
because
So
my
so
stuff is not on Amazon and stuff yet.
okay, so
Only my book.
how much are the various items are you selling these items for?
Well, I only have them in TT dollars. I'll have to calculate how much they will be in
Okay,
US
okay,
dollars. But they're
okay.
not very expensive,
Not
of
very
course.
expensive, right?
No. Mm-mm.
And right. I mean,
They're not
these are
expensive at all.
unique items. Okay,
Hmm?
these are unique items. I mean, they're
Yes, I
absolutely
think
unique.
so. Yes.
Let's see what else. So you're working on Senior Fluffy 2. You've got a second
Yes,
book you're working on.
I'm working on Senor Fluffy too. I'm also working on Not So Charming. Not So Charming. That's the fairy tale.
Uh-huh.
I'm working on a activity, Senor Fluffy activity book as well.
I love that. I love that. So you've talked about that Senior Fluffy is going to have other adventures and maybe go to Trinidad
Yes.
or
Yes. The
right,
second book he's coming. He's going to Trinidad for their carnival.
right.
And then he's going to Tobago for the crab and goat race. That is a real thing. That they
Okay,
have crabs running races and goats.
and crabs and goats.
That is a real thing in Tobago.
That sounds fun and
Yes.
amazing. So
Yeah.
when did these happen?
When what you mean the events in Tobago?
Yes.
I think it happened during the Easter holidays.
Okay.
Easter.
Um,
Yeah.
Fascinating. I mean, so are crabs smart? Do they? They're
Very, and the goats actually they train them just like horses. Of
right.
course, they run at the side. The jockeys, they actually have jockeys run and they guide them along. I saw it years ago, a couple of times. It was the most amazing thing for me to see crabs and goat running races. I was like, is that a thing? And I
Right.
think a lot of people maybe don't know this is a real thing.
Yeah.
But shockingly, it wasn't started by a Trinidadian. It was started by a Bajan man.
Interesting.
Can't remember his name right now, but yeah, a Bajan
Wow.
from Barbados. Yeah.
It would be fascinating to learn exactly how that came about.
Yeah, well,
You
it will
know,
be all in the book
the
because although
whole,
my
yeah.
book is about animals, I always once I'm writing about something, I like to write real thing the year. So when people Google it or go and look, they will find out, hey, this is a real thing. This is not just make believe.
You know,
Yeah.
I did that too. I have about 4 minutes. I just wanted to talk about. I have a character named Ronaldo, the world's smallest circus bear, and
Hmm.
I have a dear friend who lives in Monroe, Michigan. It's in the Midwest. It's about, I don't know, I'd say about an hour away from Detroit. And Monroe is a very, poor rural area of Michigan. And so, but they have a world famous fair. Every year they have a Monroe County Fair. And so I
Mhm.
had Ronaldo, the world's smallest circus bear, actually arrive as part of the circus. I think it was the Circus Berserkus or something, right? And he arrives in Monroe and has all sorts of adventures in Monroe. And I really like to do that where I will write about actual things. And I
Yes.
even had Lady Gaga in the story and Metallica in the story because
Yeah. Yeah.
because why not, right?
Why not? Why not? Because it's stories and they could learn stuff. And who
Yes,
don't know about Lady Gaga and Metallica and stuff will also learn things, you know?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
So
reading and writing is one of the best hobbies ever.
it really
To
is, and
write about anything.
it's absolutely free. You can go to the
Yeah.
library, and
Yeah.
I've always been a firm supporter of libraries.
Libraries and bookstore are my thing. The first time I went into New York and I went in Barnes and Noble on 14th Street, I nearly
Mhm.
passed out. People were
I'm
amazed.
sure,
You know, I was screaming like books, so
right?
many books. Yeah, I
Have
was
you ever,
flabbergasted.
if you ever have a chance to go to Oregon, there's a place called Powell's Bookstore, and it's an entire block. It's a bookstore
Mm-hmm.
that's an entire block. You'll just freak out. It's
Wow.
so beautiful.
Oh my God.
Yes,
They will have to give me pills or something.
something like that, right? Okay, so we're actually just a few minutes away. So this is gonna be the end of part one of my interview with Hazel Lynch, the author, the creator of Senor Fluffy. So and I'm Alex S. Johnson, and thank you very much for watching. Thank you so
Yes, and
much.
thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Us. Thank you for having us.
Cool. Okay, let me see how to stop this. And I think that's the end. Okay. Um,